There's things to be done all over the world, but let's rebuild.
Wow. You guys are awesome. It's great to be back in Pennsylvania. We're going to win this thing tomorrow and make Donald Trump the President of the United States. Now, before we get started, I got some special thank yous to say here. First of all, Congressman Lloyd Smucker. Lloyd, thank you for being here. God bless you, man. We got the great Congressman Dan Muser. Dan, good to see you, man. Thank you. We've got Jim Worthington, his lovely wife, owner of this incredible facility and a huge ally of this campaign. Thank you all for everything that you've done, especially everybody who came out to this incredible event. You know, we've got 2,500 people here, and that's an incredible, incredible testament to the enthusiasm that we have in Pennsylvania. And last but certainly not least, my favorite person, no offense to any of you fine people, but my lovely wife, Usha. Thank you, honey, for being here. And this guy in the Persians for Trump shirt, he's a rock star. He's out here all the time. You know, for the last few weeks, my team has been telling me, we're doing good. Just go out there. Make sure people know what a disaster Kamala Harris has been. Make sure people know how great Donald J. Trump is, and that's the message I've been carrying forward. But you know, it's the last day of the campaign, and I think today I'm just going to say whatever in the hell I want to. This is when this. This is when I tell you what I really think about Kamala Harris. So to the media cameras, get ready. Look, it's very simple here. Kamala Harris, she is a disaster, and we're not going to let her become President of the United States. The question for the people of Pennsylvania is very simple. Do you like being unable to afford groceries? Then vote for Kamala Harris. Are you excited about World War III? Because that's what's going to happen when Kamala Harris is the President of the United States. Do you love that wide open southern border given to you by border czar Kamala Harris? Then tomorrow is your one opportunity to say we've had it. Tomorrow is your one opportunity to say to Kamala Harris, you're fired. Get the hell out of Washington. Go back to San Francisco where you belong. You know, let me be honest with you. I kind of feel bad for Governor Tim Walz, the running mate of Kamala Harris. I'm probably the only person in the room. I think I'm the only person in the room that feels bad for Tim Walz. These guys do not feel bad for Governor Tim Walz. Let me tell you. But it was my last trip out west, actually. We went to Nevada, we went to Arizona before heading back east, and you know, I saw Tim Walz's plane on the tarmac. The Secret Service agent, as we're driving up, says, sir, we're gonna run right into Governor Tim Walz's plane. And I said, well, look, we're just gonna say a prayer for Governor Tim Walz. Because here's the thing about Governor Tim Walz, think about it. He's got the toughest job in American politics. We ought to feel bad for him. Tim Walz has got to pretend that Kamala Harris can be the President of the United States. That's really tough work. I mean, look, we're in maybe the capital of American manufacturing right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're proud, right? We're proud of Pennsylvania craftsmanship. And I'm sure everybody in here has had a tough day at work. You know, you have a long day, your back's tired, your hands are hurting, but think about it. Even in your toughest day at work, you have never had to try to convince the American people that Kamala Harris can be President of the United States. I'm telling you, my friends, he's got a tough job. But here's the thing. We know what Kamala Harris would do because we know what Kamala Harris has been doing for the last 4 years. Kamala Harris has the audacity to go around to the American people and say, on day one, I'm going to get serious about border security, or on day one, we're going to make groceries and housing more affordable for our fellow citizens. Well, Kamala Harris, day one was 1,400 days ago. What the hell have you been doing? Stop talking about doing your job and go and actually do it. We can't trust Kamala Harris to lower the cost of groceries. She's been vice president for 4 years and she hasn't done a damn thing. We can't trust Kamala Harris to close the border. She's been vice president and border czar for 4 years and she hasn't done anything about it. We can't trust Kamala Harris to bring common sense to the White House. She's been in Washington for 4 years. And the consequence is that our fellow citizens are seeing credit card delinquency rates going through the roof. Unaffordable housing, unaffordable grocery prices. If Kamala Harris was fit to do a good job for the American people, then she already would have done it over the last 4 years. Now, there is one thing, one nice thing. Look at me. I said something nice. I asked you all to pray for Governor Tim Walz, and now I'm going to say something nice about Kamala Harris. Now, you guys are surprised by this, I can tell. And again, these guys don't want me to say anything nice about Kamala Harris. But here's the thing. The one thing I'll say nice about Kamala Harris is that every single time she gives an interview, I think we gain about 50,000 votes. Now, did you, I don't know, who saw Kamala Harris's interview with The View a couple of weeks ago? Did anybody watch Kamala Harris on The View? That's good. See, that's what I do. My act of service as your next vice president is I watch Kamala Harris on The View so that you don't have to. I do it for you because I love this country and I love the people of Pennsylvania. Now, remember, she's been going around America saying that she's somehow going to do something different over the next 4 years that she hasn't done over the last 4 years. You put a teleprompter in front of Kamala Harris and she'll act like she doesn't even know who Joe Biden is. She's running as far away from her own record over the last 4 years as possible. But in a rare moment of unscripted softball interview, somebody in The View says, "What would you have done differently over the last 4 years?" And Kamala Harris says, "Nothing comes to mind." That was her answer. Now in her defense, my friends, that could be the motto of the Harris-Walz campaign. Nothing comes to mind. But I think we can try it out. Kamala Harris, what would you do to lower the price of groceries? Nothing comes to mind. Kamala Harris, what would you do differently on the southern border that you haven't already done? Nothing comes to mind. So here's the thing. While Kamala Harris runs around the country with scripted speeches pretending that she's going to do something different, we know that the only way to change the direction of this country, the only way to return peace and prosperity to the American people, the only way to give the American people a president who is fit to lead this great nation is to vote tomorrow for Donald J. Trump. Kamala Harris isn't going to do it. Donald Trump will. Look, the record of Kamala Harris is clear. We know what she's done. Like I said, credit card delinquencies are through the roof. 8% of our fellow citizens can't afford to pay their car payments right now because of Kamala Harris's policies. The state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has seen a bigger increase in the cost of groceries than any state in the entire union. Pennsylvania families are being crushed by the cost of everything from groceries to housing. And of course, Pennsylvania young people are dying at record levels from fentanyl that the Mexican drug cartels have brought into this country. thanks to Kamala Harris's wide open border. We know what Kamala Harris's leadership means for Pennsylvania. It means more people dying of fentanyl, more of our fellow citizens not being able to afford groceries, more of our own people struggling to afford the American dream. So tomorrow, we're going to say to Kamala Harris, you are fired. We don't want you in the White House. We don't want you in the Oval Office. We don't want you anywhere near the halls of power. And look, here's what's so different about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It's not just that they've got different plans or different proposals, but let me say something about that. Because if you go, I will say this about Kamala Harris's plans and proposals, every time Donald J. Trump issues a good policy idea, Kamala Harris copies it 2 days later. Have you noticed this? So Donald Trump comes out very early on the campaign and says, you know what, it's ridiculous that our servers can't afford Kamala Harris's inflation, so we're going to do no tax on tips. Let America's servers, America's retail staff, let them keep more of their hard-earned money. You know, another thing President Trump realized going around campaigning is that a lot of our fellow citizens are working way too many hours because Kamala Harris's inflation is crushing American families. So President Trump said, you know what, we're going to do no taxes on overtime. Let the people who are working the longest hours keep more of their hard-earned money. And then, of course, President Trump has made border security a hallmark of this campaign, and I think that every time he comes out with one of these proposals, Kamala Harris, 3 days later, she'll say, I believe in that too. I told the president a couple weeks ago, we were talking on the phone, I said, sir, I think the last day of the campaign, she's going to show up in a Navy suit, a long red tie, and a red MAGA hat because she's realized the only chance she has is just to copy Donald J. Trump. But I think I speak for all of us in this room. We don't want a fake copy of Donald J. Trump. We want the real thing, and that's exactly what we're going to vote for tomorrow. We don't want somebody who says they're going to make the American dream more affordable again. We want the president who had inflation at 1.5%. He already delivered. We don't want Kamala Harris who says that she's going to make take-home pay great again. We know that Donald J. Trump's leadership delivered the fastest rising take-home pay in 40 years in the United States of America. He already did it. And we don't want somebody who pretends to care about border security. We want Donald J. Trump who built the wall and made American borders secure. Man, where is the open bar? This is the hell of a crowd, man. We're having a good time here in Pennsylvania. And look, we know what has happened because Kamala Harris has failed to do her job at that border. You know, we talk a lot about on this campaign, we talk about making the American dream more affordable again. It's interesting. The thing that I hear most from young people, not just in Pennsylvania, but all over the country, is that they'd like to start a family. They'd like to buy a home because they want to raise that family in a big and beautiful home. And of course, we want that for all of our citizens, but they feel like the American dream of homeownership has become unaffordable in Kamala Harris's America. Well, you know what Donald Trump and I are going to do about that? Number one, you got to build more homes in the United States of America, cut back the ridiculous regulations, unleash American energy, and make it easy to build homes again. But you know what you got to do if you want American homes to be affordable for our citizens again? You've got to make sure that American homes go to American citizens, not to people who don't have the legal right to be in this country. And so, yes, we are going to build more homes. Yes, we are going to fight to lower mortgage interest rates in the United States of America. But the Donald J. Trump plan to make American housing affordable again is to ensure that American homes go to American citizens and we deport the people who shouldn't be here. We stop putting them up. at five-star hotels on your dime. Here's the thing about, Kamala Harris. She pretends to have gotten religion on border security over the last couple of months, but she is the border czar right now. So every time you hear Kamala Harris say that she's going to do something, you should be asking her, why aren't you doing it right now? She's the sitting vice president, and not only has she not done anything, she's made the border crisis worse. Remember, this is a woman who came into office bragging about undoing Donald Trump's successful border policies. She said she was going to stop building the wall, and she did. She said they were going to suspend deportations, and they did. They said they were going to re-implement the catch and release program, and they did. And unfortunately, Pennsylvania families were now dealing with the consequences every single day. Donald Trump, it's funny. He's got a different approach to the illegal immigration problem, while Kamala Harris is rolling out the red carpet and offering Social Security and housing and health care benefits to illegal aliens. Our message is a little bit different. It is, pack your bags, because in 3 months, illegal immigrants are going back home. And I mentioned earlier, Pennsylvania's got one of the great traditions of American manufacturing, of American craftsmanship. For 40 years, and I hate to say it was bipartisan, American leaders said that we didn't need to make our own stuff anymore. We saw our steel mills close down, we saw our paper mills, our textile mills. You know that a large share of the pharmaceutical products that we put into the bodies of our children are made in communist China. It is a disgrace. And every single opportunity that Kamala Harris has got to fight for American manufacturing or American workers, she has fought to ship our jobs overseas instead. Think about this. In the last month, America lost 28,000 private sector jobs. In the last month, we lost 46,000 manufacturing jobs under Kamala Harris's leadership. But you know what? You know who we did hire? We hired a lot of government bureaucrats. You look at the jobs report. And it says that we lost 46,000 manufacturing jobs, but we gained 12,000 jobs total. You know what that means? That means we lost a lot of manufacturing workers. That means a lot of our jobs were shipped to China, to Mexico, but the government bureaucrats working for Kamala Harris, they're doing fine in Washington, D.C. Well, here is maybe the biggest contrast between Kamala Harris and Donald J. Trump. Kamala Harris wants to hire 87,000 IRS bureaucrats to go after Pennsylvania, small businesses and Pennsylvania families. You know what we want to do? We want to send the U.S. military to go to war against the Mexican drug cartels and leave you all the hell alone. I've never seen in my life, you ask, why was Donald Trump's economic policy so successful and why have Kamala Harris has been such a failure? And you realize all you got to do is listen to Kamala Harris. Ask her the question. The media sometimes, the rare opportunity they get to ask Kamala Harris a softball question, they'll say, what is your specific plan to make groceries and housing more affordable for our citizens? And she'll say, well, I grew up in a middle-class family. Or they'll say, what's your specific plan to close down that southern border that you yourself opened just a couple of years ago? And she'll say, I used to work at McDonald's, and I was really good at making the hash browns. And by the way, I don't even know that she did work at McDonald's. I think maybe my running mate worked at McDonald's for longer than Kamala Harris did. But the reason she can't answer the question is because she doesn't have a plan and she doesn't have a record. I've never seen in my life, my friends, a politician go around and promise to raise your taxes. Even the politicians who plan to raise your taxes, they at least have the common sense to not tell you the truth about it. But Kamala Harris is telling you, she's bragging about the fact that she is going to undo Donald Trump's successful tax policies, which means every single person here is going to pay thousands of dollars in additional taxes to bureaucrats in Washington when you ought to be using it to spend how you want to, on a nice vacation maybe, on a good meal for your family. Here's the problem with Kamala Harris's economic policies is that she thinks we ought to raise taxes on American citizens and reward foreign corporations that ship American jobs overseas. You know what Donald J. Trump thinks? President Trump thinks that we ought to cut your taxes and punish the corporations that are shipping American jobs overseas. We want to reward anybody. Let's reward the people who are creating jobs in America, not the people who are shipping our jobs to China. It's that simple. And look, there's so much that we could be doing better, so much prosperity we could unleash. I really do believe that under Donald Trump's leadership, we are going to unleash a golden age of American prosperity. I know a lot of our citizens who are watching this, I know a lot of people are watching at home, they are struggling. They're struggling to buy groceries. They're struggling to be able to afford their rent. They're struggling with the cost of prescription drugs. Our people are losing under the policies of Kamala Harris. And here's what we're going to do, and here's why tomorrow is so important, because the American people are depending on us. They are depending on solid leadership. They are depending on a change in direction. They are depending on common sense economic policies. They are depending on the leadership of Donald J. Trump, and tomorrow, that's exactly what we're going to give. You know, we talk about Kamala Harris's open border, and usually we talk about the crime, and that's a big issue. Think about it, 425,000 illegal immigrant criminals in the United States of America right now. How many Marines do we have in the crowd? We got any Marines? Simplify to all the Marines, but thank you to everybody who has served, regardless of your branch of service. But 425,000 illegal immigrant criminals, that's more than double the size of the United States Marine Corps that has been welcomed into this country by Kamala Harris's border policies. We also talk a lot about the fentanyl, the poison that has been brought into Pennsylvania at an industrial scale by those Mexican drug cartels. You know what we don't talk enough about, though? We don't talk enough about the Pennsylvania school children who have had their schools overwhelmed with thousands upon thousands of kids who don't even speak English, which means Pennsylvania children aren't getting the education that they deserve. We don't talk enough about the fact that hospital wait times, emergency room wait times in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are north of 3 hours, because what we've done is we've allowed illegal aliens to get in front of the line of American citizens. So here is my solemn promise. As your next vice president and speaking for your next president, when Donald J. Trump is president, we will have somebody in the White House that puts the interests of American citizens first, not the people who don't have the right to be here. You know, and for a couple days earlier in the week, we were going around at all of our events. We had garbage trucks parked at our events, and you know, I told the president, well, if he's going to work at McDonald's and work as a garbage man, I have to get a second job too. I can't just run for vice president if he's going to be working multiple jobs, right? It's only fair. Only fair. But think about this. It's not just that Kamala Harris is bad on the policies. It's not just that Kamala Harris has had a bad record. It's that Kamala Harris, instead of persuading her fellow citizens, has decided that she's going to try to censor them, and that her boss, Joe Biden, is going to call us garbage. That is what they've done down the final stretches. And what I'd ask you to do, my friends, as a person who has lost friends because of politics, people who have come out and said, you know, we don't agree with JD's politics, so we're not going to be his friend anymore. Don't take the bait of the Democrats. over the next 24 hours, I want every one of you, I'm going to ask you from the bottom of my heart, do everything that you can to persuade your fellow citizens, especially the ones who disagree with us, that their prosperity depends on electing Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. Let's go and do it. Let's make the case. But for anybody we don't persuade, I want you to know that Donald J. Trump is going to fight for your prosperity too, because we love all of our citizens, even the ones who disagree with us politically. Donald J. Trump, he's going to be a president for every single American citizen, because that's what real American patriotism requires. And to the Pennsylvanians who are struggling, no matter what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Tim Walz say, you are not garbage for being worried about not being able to afford your groceries. You are not garbage for thinking that Kamala Harris ought to do a better job. You are not racist for thinking that America deserves to have a secure southern border. So, to Kamala Harris, you shouldn't be calling your citizens garbage. You shouldn't be criticizing people for daring to criticize you for doing a bad job. And our message to the leadership, to the elites of the Democratic Party is no. The people of Pennsylvania are not garbage for struggling under your leadership, but tomorrow the people of Pennsylvania are going to take out the trash in Washington, D.C., and we're going to do it together. So, let me close out here with just one final observation. First of all, who here has already voted? Raise your hand if you've already voted. Not a lot of people. Who here is voting tomorrow in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? That's a lot of people. Now, first of all, do not forget, tomorrow, get out there and vote, my friends. But here's what this is ultimately about. Think about this. Look, this is not red team versus blue team, because think about Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard. We've got a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents who are welcome on this team. And it's easy during the end of an election. We've all been running hard and focusing on politics. This is not even just about beating Kamala Harris. As fun as it will be to beat Kamala Harris, and trust me, I'm going to enjoy it more than any of you. But we're trying to beat Kamala Harris in the service of giving the American people leadership who's fit to lead the greatest nation in the world. And I want to tell you just about some of the people that I've met. I mean, I stand here raised by a working class grandmother, a woman who didn't graduate from high school, much less from college. And I'm asking the people of Pennsylvania to make me your next Vice President of the United States. This is a great country, my friends. It really is. I am overwhelmed with gratitude. Gratitude for my family for letting me do this. Gratitude for this incredible team. We got our team over here. Give the Vance team a round of applause. They've been working hard. I'm incredibly grateful to the President for giving me this opportunity, and I'm most of all grateful to all of you for fighting every single day for a better life for our citizens. But when you get to the end of a campaign, it's very easy to get tunnel vision. But look, I've met people just in the past few weeks who have given me so much hope and so much love for this incredible country and all of the great people who live there. You know, I met a woman a few weeks ago, this was in Michigan, a woman who told me that she could not afford the cost of groceries. She was really worried about whether she'd be able to put food on the table the following week. We talked about that for about 30 seconds. And then she spent 3 minutes telling me that she prayed for me, for my wife, and for each of our 3 children by name, She knew the name of my first, middle, and last of our 3 kids because she said a prayer for them every night. That's incredible generosity of spirit, and we've got it in spades in our great country. I've talked to a lot of parents of teenagers who went to a party and took something under peer pressure, but because of what Kamala Harris has let the Mexican drug cartels do, those teenagers lost their lives because what they took under peer pressure was laced with fentanyl. That's exactly right, sir. You can say that, I can't. I've met veterans and active service members of the military, people who put on the uniform every single day and offer to risk their lives for the people of this country. But you know what? If they are asked to risk their life for the United States of America, they want it to be for our national security and not to be the policemen of the world. I've talked to the families of the brave soldiers and Marines who died in Afghanistan, the 13 who died in Afghanistan 3 years ago. And you know, they're heartbroken at the loss of their loved ones. They know that their loved ones sign up maybe to pay the ultimate price. But you know what pisses them off? What pisses them off is that not a single Pentagon bureaucrat, not a single person has faced accountability for those brave 13 Americans losing their life because of government incompetence. Think about all of those people. The woman praying for me, even though she can't afford groceries. The parents who just want to raise their teenagers in safe and secure neighborhoods. The veterans who love serving this country but only want to serve this country, not some foreign bureaucrat. This is an incredible country that we have, my friends. We've got 250 years of the greatest tradition of liberty, of freedom, of self-government anywhere in the entire world. But I believe that the American people deserve so much better. I believe that our parents deserve to be able to raise their children in safe neighborhoods. I believe that our workers deserve to know that they've got a president who's fighting for their job rather than fighting to send it overseas. Our brave personnel in the military deserve to know that they've got a president who respects their sacrifice and will only send them to war if we absolutely have to. I met a woman, a retiree, who told me that for 40 years, she and her husband celebrated steak night on Friday night. That was until last year because groceries got so expensive that they canceled steak night because Kamala Harris didn't do her job. This woman, who has worked hard and played by the rules, had to cancel a family ritual. And of course, I remember as a little kid when my grandmother, when it got too cold at night and times were a little too financially tight, she would say, "JD, we're not going to turn on the heat tonight. We're unfortunately just going to have to throw a few extra blankets on the bed and get through the night." And I happen to believe that every single person who works hard and plays by the rules ought to be able to afford steak night with their families on a Friday night. We ought to let every American, because we've got the best energy resources in the state of Pennsylvania anywhere in the world, that if you want to turn on your heat in a cold winter night, you ought to be able to in the United States of America. We've got to serve our veterans better. We got to serve our veterans better. We got to serve our parents better. We got to make sure that the American dream is accessible again. But the only way that we're going to do it is to fix the one thing that is broken about this country, and that is Kamala Harris's failed leadership in Washington. Let's make Donald J. Trump the next president of the United States tomorrow, Pennsylvania. It's our time. Let's make it happen. God bless you. God love you. I'll be back soon.
Hello, Detroit auto worker, let me thank you for your time. You work a 40-hour week for a living, just to send it on